All right, guys. So, like I mentioned just now, it's interesting. I feel like my voice just changed when I knew we were recording, and I'm like, wow, all right, this is fun. But it's good to see you guys. And we're going to be talking about downward to upward spirals today. And then we're also going to be talking about goals. So, because that was the thing that was released this morning, and it's something that you guys can implement whilst we have that funky week off next week that I didn't even think about. So, within downward to upward spirals, it is so important to know that you are going to experience both. And I like to think about like if I'm on the verge of a breakdown, a breakthrough is right around the corner. And so that's what we're going to be talking about is how to not only just expect the expected, you're human. There are going to be upward and lower up and low cycles within your life and within your business. It doesn't just because you decide to start a business doesn't mean that life stops happening. So there are going to be many things that happen that are outside of your control within your business and also externally. So we're going to be talking about how to ride the roller coaster because you're going through a lot of development right now. Your self-concept is shifting, river of misery, all that fun stuff. And so I'm going to help you to like just mitigate the roller coaster bumps. And then we're also going to talk about tracking trends. So we're going to talk about how you because if you've been self-coaching for the past couple of months, you'll notice that there are certain things that really trigger you. And so we're going to, instead of just being like, oh, a consult like didn't show up, or oh, this person decided to quit, instead of just being surprised and being like, oh my God, like I'm really triggered right now, you're actually going to be able to proactively be like, okay, of course people will quit, of course people will ghost, but here's how I want to handle it intentionally. Then you're also going to think about like the support plan, and you're going to think about how you want to think and feel in all the circumstances in the future. And we're also going to talk about how to get into low to high cycles. And I just want to double check something really quick. But I think this is just a really important one because I think a lot of us get into like these lower value cycles. And what happens is, okay, good. I was like, at least the worksheet I think is correct. Yes. Okay. We got it. Okay. Good. So within your business, there are going to be so many cycles. And just a reminder of that first session, what is happening to you right now is your self concept and your subconscious is literally shifting. Remember, this like runs a show 80% of the time. So for you to be going through such a big, drastic change, going from like who you once were to like the CEO of this amazing, like life changing and altering business that you have, it's going to shake everything up a little bit. And I just want to remind you that there are so many things that are outside of our control. Like I have gone through like a breakup. I actually experienced like big T trauma back in October of 2021. And it really like shook me to my core. And there are also going to be things that happen within your business that you feel are within your control or without of your control. And every time that you're focusing on things that are outside of your control, that's the normal human reaction. And we want to just come back to what we can control. We can control our meta self concept, which is our meta programs, attitudes, memories, decisions, beliefs, and values. We can also control our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and our results. And the more we can just bring it back to like what is within my control, what is within my power to choose and change, that's what we want to do. Now, I want to give you guys a heads up that you are launching these amazing programs into the world. Maybe it's a program that you've had, maybe you've shifted your program, maybe you're changing it right now. And I want you to know that when you're riding these rapids and you're making sure that you're like taking on all these new changes, it's going to shake things up a bit internally. So that's why doing all the thought work up until this point is so important and why we want to make sure that we continue to do this. And like I mentioned, it's a huge shift and you're leveling up. But what happens is your brain, those neuroceptors, those fun little things that keep looking out for danger, super great, but it's going to continue to stop you from protecting you from perceived threats. And I actually did a whole reel yesterday because I was like, a lot of times we are concerned about things that are causing you to feel abandoned, or it's like a lot of times the things that will grow your business require you to feel some of the most uncomfortable emotions that literally like were survival mechanisms. So rejection, failure, and abandonment are like the building blocks to building a really awesome business. So I said yesterday in the post, I was like, instead of like that quote that says like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Or it's like, what would you do if you weren't afraid to fail? I want to shift that to being like, what if you weren't affected by your failure? What if it's like, not only it's like, if you weren't afraid of failure, but if you could feel the failure and go through it anyways. And so we're essentially, there are going to be things that are logical. And like what Renee talked to you guys about, we're learning how to go to from an activated nervous system state where it's fight or flight, freeze or fawn. And you're going to learn how to get back into that regulated zone of genius where you can actually like go in and actually keep openness in the present. So I don't know if we've spoken, I'm pretty sure we've spoken about the polyvagal theory. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. But when we're thinking about our nervous systems, our brain is literally hardwired to keep us safe. And so, and I've been learning a lot more about the psychology behind it. Psychologists have this term that's, there's like, it's called the one true self or your core self or core identity that are when you are in flow, when you're in your zone of genius, that is the like core version of you. And then what happens is there's that version of you, like your higher self is another way you can call it. Then there's the other version of you that's just trying to keep you safe and keep you protected from threats. And so I was talking with my hypnotherapist and she's like, it's called, because she's teaching me her German course in English and it's like the best thing ever. I'm like eating it up. But what happens is you actually have this major conflict within yourself. And the conflict is, do I want to stay safe and play it safe, play it easy, do the typical path, or do I want to follow my calling and my purpose and go for the thing that I know is true and authentic to me? And it's just like the apparently the human dilemma. It's like, which one do we go? And regardless of what you choose, it is not going to impact your self-worth. If you're like, okay, I want to go with something more safe, totally fine. It doesn't, if you're looking around you and seeing peers and stuff that are like playing it safe, doesn't make us better or worse, like them worse, but it is something that every human experiences. The other thing I wanted to mention is that what I found with coaching and also like some of that nervous system regulation therapy, all those fun things, is it creates a bridge between the two. So you've got your aligned, higher, like true self, whatever you want to call that. And then there's also the part of you keeping you safe. And what I found through coaching is that it bridges the gap and it makes that safe part of me feel safe and it creates that ability to go out and go and do awesome things. So just a reminder about the polyvagal theory. And I'm of course not a professional. So if you guys know more about this, if you're like, this is totally wrong, just tell me because I will continue to spread misinformation and don't want to do that. But what you want to recognize is that anytime that I think that the nervous system feels the neuroreceptors, they sense a threat. What I like to think about it as triggers. I'm like, okay, there's something that is triggering me right now that is making me feel like I'm moving into these stages. I'm moving into the fight, flight, or even fawn phase. Now, the polyvagal theory talks about how like the fight or flight is the I can, the freeze is I can't. And this is the main thing. Like we want to push ourselves. We're going to talk about goal setting right after this. We want to push ourselves to be like right here and also like mitigate and just like be like, okay, I'm triggered and I'm bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it down. If you notice that you're getting into freeze where you are unable to do anything and you're shutting down, you're feeling lots of shame, which is normal. We just want to back off and like reevaluate and be like, all right, let me deactivate for a second, whatever's causing this trigger, let's get to the root cause of it, and then also mitigate it in some way, shape, or form. So when we're thinking about regulating your nervous system. As some of you guys know, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I used to teach yoga. So I really love yoga. I go to it 3 times a week. It really helps me. Exercise, I also like, it really helps me get my endorphins going. I feel like it's like my unofficial cup of coffee in the morning. Those are ways that like immediately when I start the day, sometimes I'll just like feel really triggered. In fact, for the past 2 Tuesdays, I randomly woke up with a panic attack. I'm like, well, haven't seen you in a while. That's exciting. What is happening? But sometimes you just have to figure out what works for you. Self-coaching helps me, rest helps me, exercise helps me. Those are some examples. Again, just like every system, feel free to use what I have and try out all these things and see if it helps you to deregulate. The other thing that I want you to know is to get back into this so there's the ventral vagal, which is where you are calm, open, you're in the present, a lot of times in flow. The majority of us never spend time here, but you get glimpses of it when you're in your business and you're like, whoa, okay, I'm feeling this like calmness. And I'm like, oh, I can just feel like I'm in flow. The majority of us spend our lives here. So it's not a problem. It's very normal, but you want to make sure that you know how to regulate yourself and also co-regulating. This group is a family. We are all here as a community to support each other, to make sure that like if someone is feeling down, we're all going to have those moments that we can pick each other back up. That's one of the reasons why I'm in so many groups and things like that. So if you start to feel like you're in a downward spiral at all, just get coached, vent, send a message in the group, ask for others, and we can bolster each other up. That's why you're doing group instead of one-on-one a lot of the time, is like so we can all do this. So when I was talking about the prevention, we want to make sure that you know what kind of brings you into a low value cycle or something that is not like where you're feeling stuck. Instead of just staying there, we just want to get curious, like kind of bring yourself out of it, observe it, and be like, what is sending me into the struggle right now? What is causing me to just kind of like panic right now in this situation? And I want you to know that a low value cycle is never a no value cycle. I have signed so many clients, you guys included, when I was in a low value cycle. And I was like freaking out. My nervous system was completely unregulated, and I could still show up and serve you to the best of my ability at that time. And I just want you to know that your business is always working, even if you're not feeling it. It's always working. And that's the way that we want to solve for any things that we notice are out of like, they're kind of like out of whack. I don't ever want to even like mention the word that there's a problem. But when you just get into that state, it's like, okay, nothing's a problem. Everything's working. What could be working better? Huge shift. And that's what I like to call, this is like a concept that I felt like was helpful, is that there's an empowering cycle. So when you're thinking about having like the low value cycle, a lot of times we don't just go from low to high. There's that, even if you think about the polyvagal theory, there is that deactivation stage. Like there is like, it's not just like you go from freeze to ventral. It's like dorsal vagal to ventral vagal. You don't just go from these two places. So what you want to do is you want to have that middle ground, that empowered cycle where you're like, okay, how was I able to get out of this funk in the past? And if you're in it right now, great. This is like a perfect time for you to like get some like psychoanalysis. But I want you to think about like, what could you do to shift from here to here? What were the things that triggered you and how can we improve? Then if you're thinking about the times when your business was like just really rocking, if you're like, there was never a time, it's like our brains like to be really dramatic, but it's like when you decide to maybe even just start the business, what were your models then? So these are some of the things that I recognized in myself that were low in power and high value cycle. Now, just a heads up, your worksheet looks a little bit different because your template, I keep calling it worksheets, teacher habit, sorry, but the circumstances are the same for the low and empowering cycle. So, and I'll just show you guys what I switched the worksheet to look like. It's the same. So you guys can see that. But when you are in a low value cycle, if I was not hitting my goal for the wait list. I remember this is for my first launch that To Be True you were a part of, and I was panicking. I was like, in August, when I didn't hit my goal for the launch, I was like, or the wait list, because I started a wait list. I was like, everything has gone to shit. And I was like, nothing is working. And I felt really helpless. And so I catastrophized about the program. I fixated on people who watch reels. I'm like, oh, this didn't get enough reels. That's the reason why. Again, focusing on things that were outside of my control. And then what happened is I undermined my ability to compel people to sign up for future wait lists because I wasn't talking to anybody. I was just looking at my analytics the whole time. The other thing is one person signed up for the program. So I had one person that signed up and I was like, I messed up, which is fascinating because some people might hear one person signed up. They might be like, great, somebody signed up, but my brain didn't go there based on my former self-concept. And I thought I messed up, felt devastated, not thinking about the people I have been talking to. So I was like completely focused on the people who I haven't been talking to, pour things into things I felt comfortable with, just like focusing on all social media, not actually talking to humans, and not being grateful for the person who did sign up. And so, of course, I didn't get more people to sign up for the program. Now, what I realized is that was sending me into a low value cycle. So I was like, okay, if I want to, when one person signed up for the program, if I want to switch that and I want to make it work for the round and improve future rounds, what I would have to do is I would have to evaluate. I would have to do some self-coaching. I'd have to remind myself that I'm safe. I would have to do my content in advance so that I wouldn't have to worry about like regulating my nervous system and trying to produce content. I would reach out to people. I would remember that even if I deliver it to one or two people, I'm still creating a really positive impact in the world. And I actually decided the week before the consults closed that I was going to deliver it. It was at the time there were two people that had signed up. And I decided that if it was one person, I would offer them one-on-one. And if it's two people, I would do the course. And I didn't make it mean anything about me or the future of my business. And I got my ass coached. And I felt certain and just like love for the people that were in there. Sometimes I like to add more feelings to the like empowered cycle. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad I get to help people help others. I love myself and I'm going to have my own back through this. When I realized, got able to get into the cycle, fun fact, I signed, it was like 7 people in 1 week. It was like ridiculous. Literally like, yeah. So this is important. If you're here and go to here, it can drastically change your business, like in a crazy way. So really, really fun and sometimes it won't work like that, but sometimes it does, and like for the wait list, I was able, so within the wait list, I was like, okay, if I want to I didn't make the wait list dictate my ability to sell the group. I decided, it was like, okay, I'm not going to include a wait list in future launches. This is like, I feel like it was just like launching for 2 months, which again, I would recommend launching for like 3 to 5 days from now on. So it was like 2 months of craziness, trying to regulate a lot. And I was going to say I was going to include it for future launches and think about more ways that I can grow my audience. And even though I got into a empowered cycle for the wait list, like even though I was like feeling okay about it towards the end, none of it changed. So I felt confident and determined. I said, I create safety for myself. Even if this goes to shit, I'm going to have my own back and I'm not going to let myself fail past the point of harm. And it was just like really like talking to myself and being like, you're okay. And the waitlist didn't change. No one still signed up, but I was actually able to mitigate my own nervous system and feel safe enough to keep going. The other things is like, I hit a goal I had for a webinar. And when I was like, I noticed that immediately put me into high value cycle. I was like, I shit. I was like, people want this. Everyone wants to be here. And I was like, ooh, people want this was like the big thought. And I was like, I felt so grounded. I was like, yes, they totally want this. And so I shared more about the webinar. I built relationships on social media. I built relationships instead of fixing on social media. And guess what? I compelled more people to sign up. So if this is a high value cycle that I had, people want this. I want to know these thoughts like the back of my hand. Like these are the thoughts that, and sometimes they'll like need to shift and change, but it's like people want this. I can't wait to help them. If these are thoughts that trigger me into a high value cycle, even without the circumstances, I want to get into a practiced reality and a practiced like almost like I want to create it as a practice part of my state and a practice part of my self-concept. So, and this is more about from the goals list. So we're going to be talking more about this, but you can add, this is more so for the next week, and I'll add these to the notes, but feel free to add more circumstances that you know are probably going to come up and could trigger you. And then any other positive circumstances. And then I want you to list those things out. And then I want you to choose the empowering thoughts and feelings on purpose. So what you want to do is we want to create this plan that interrupts your future results. So it's like, okay, if no one's paying for your product after 1 month, 12 months, if your limiting thought is that I'm a failure, I'll never be successful, feel shame, we want to pause it at the feeling. Okay. So I want you to try and really notice. This is where we do the pattern interrupt. You want to start to listen to your feelings. If you are feeling shame, if you're feeling terrified, let's get curious. Let's figure out why, get to the root cause with your thoughts and circumstances. And my goal for you is that instead of following this cycle down a low value cycle and going into your actions and results, I want you to pause it here and go here. I'm glad I put myself out there. Now I'm going to thinking about something I could change for this month and feeling curious. Okay. And this is actually, this came from, I'm pretty sure I've talked to you guys about DL Sharon. She's amazing. I hope I said her last name right. I'll post a link to hers, but she is, I think 27 and just hit her first $1 million year. She's an incredible coach that helps, I think it's women of color that are business owners or just coaches. She's like so cool. I love her. And she said that this is what took her from 6 to 7 figures. And it happens at this level. Like if you can figure out how to switch into like limiting to empowering, and just become a habit, think about the possibility as you scale. Because what happens is it's not like these cycles, like someone asks for a refund, it's like that's going to happen. But imagine that on like 20 people asking for a refund. It's just going to happen at a larger scale. And it's instead of like, you will kind of get like a sense of desensitizing it. But if you can actually control it and be like, okay, I'll never hit my annual goal. I'm feeling terrified. Being like, I'm financially secure right now. It's time to focus on bringing in more people and feeling determined. Okay. So I said, you are the captain now. So just remember, this is actually something that my psychotherapist and I have talked about at length. What the biggest thing that she sees in like so many clients and like all of us is that immediately, of course, when you're starting a business, we go immediately to the triangle of drama, hero, victim, villain. And what we want to do is we want to get into this empowerment dynamic, because when you're empowered, you're not in the victim mode or like any of these modes. We want to stay out of the triangle of drama. And anytime I notice that I'm getting like really like worked up about something, I'm like, I'm totally in the triangle of drama. I'm like, okay, reset, clean slate. Like, what is going on? And let's get back into like a more empowered state. So this is, I'll talk about this more in the next one. So really quick, are there any questions about this? And then we're going to get into week 5 or the goal setting. That was really lengthy, but important. It was actually only like 15 minutes. That's not bad. Nobody? All right. Well, because I'm out of town next week and it's also the 4th of July, and even though we do have 2 people that are not in the US, I still figured we would take it off and just like have a bonus integration week, where you could also ponder goal setting and envisioning, because I already released this to you guys. And so I figured I would teach you and make sure you got both this week. So what we want to do is when we are starting to set our goals, I think I've talked with you guys about this. Andrea, I'm pretty sure we talked about like the 30 reasons why. We're going to talk about how that plays into things. We're going to talk about how to do tangible goal setting, and not just for the next 5 months, for like the next year and multiple years. You're going to think about compelling reasons for your brain to grow, and you're going to decide how you want to show up in this container. So, and also in future containers and just in your life. So when you're thinking about wanting from abundance, a lot of times when we think about setting goals, what happens is we have kind of like this scarcity mindset because the goals that we want to achieve are in the future. So we're like, okay, I'm going to focus on like having like a beautiful big house and being able to like travel the world. And those are wonderful things that make me feel excited and inspired. But if I start out with those things, you might be like, oh, well, it's like I would like to travel more. And it's like, dang, like we just had someone in here to replace the floors in our condo because the floors are a bit rough. And so it's like if I'm focusing on like the future floors, it's gonna keep me in a state of scarcity and insufficiency. So what you do is I want you to start off when you do this exercise next week or whenever you have time, thinking about things that you have accomplished and then starting from a place of abundance. So when you're thinking about creating that want list, I don't know if we've done this yet. I was thinking more about the 30 reasons why, but I want you to think about 15 things that you have always wanted and already have, and then think about things that you don't have yet. So that will be like the first thing. And like for me, like for the things that like I have always wanted and already have, like I've got an amazing supportive partner. Like I've always wanted that and now I finally have that. Like it just feels so wonderful and it makes me feel like the emotion that like it creates for me is just like so much like gratitude and like just thankfulness, and it just feels really wonderful. And the other thing is like I've always like the back porch of my place. Like, if you guys ever come to Raleigh, I will gladly have you over. It is so pretty, and we're gonna screen it in. Like, so that's like something I don't have yet, but it's just so nice and green and lush. And it's like one of my favorite things that I just get to look at all the time. And it's like, I actually, when I was living in Winston-Salem, I lived in like a concrete box, like it was an old warehouse, and they didn't even have a window. They just like had like a little like small light at the top that led into the living room, and we looked at the gym. So there was no sky, no greenery anywhere. And I just like think about how grateful I am that I can actually have windows. Like it's like the things that you don't realize how amazing it is until you don't have it. You're like, oh my God. It's like I've got 2 closets. This is great. Like all these kind of things that you might have that you don't even realize how amazing it is that we have this. I want you guys to start there and then think about like, okay, what do I want to like? What would be amazing to have in this lifetime? This would be so cool. And notice that that core self that we talked about, that true self, we all have different things on our want list. So, like for me, something that has recently come on my want list, I'm like, it would be so cool to be a digital nomad, like wander the earth. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh, that would just be amazing. And so it's like, I don't have that yet, but I'm like, okay, that's something that maybe I do want to have in this lifetime. I want to say maybe I lived in Europe for a year. That would be really neat. And then like come back, of course. But like those are kind of things that like you want to just like dream big. Like, why not? We only have one life. We want to make sure that we use it. And oh, sorry, friends. That just like hit me in a funny place. Our sweet puppy Jackson, we took him for like an annual like, or just like he has to get like these allergy shots, and they found a growth yesterday. And so it was just like, and he's like 5, he's a young-ish dog. And so it just kind of like made me think like, it's like I am stressed about this, but like I am gonna sit and cuddle with him. Like even like it could be nothing, could be totally benign, but like it's just one of the things that's like, okay, like I'm gonna make the most of every moment and make it work. So I want you to do that as well. And just like, it's like we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. So dream big. That was like a somber moment. Sorry, friends. I was like not expecting it. I was like, ah, but I'm not gonna cry and it's gonna be fine. And also we don't know anything. So I'm like, no point. Focusing on what I can control. So within this container, again, I want you to stretch yourself past your current ability. I want you to seize a version of yourself in the future that's like this badass version that I see in you guys, like that you are, and that you're becoming in the process of always getting better and growing. And I also like think it'd be really cool if you wanted to make your investment back, that would be cool. So it's like you could think about like that's a way that you could have that goal. And I also want you to know that sometimes within a goal, you don't always make it. So for me, what I did is I set a goal that would stretch myself this year. And I was like, 200K, I really want to hit it this year. And then I realized, because I would be like making my investment back for the masterminds that I've invested in, and also making sure that like I could save for the future. So that was like my goal. And I was like, I wanted to make my investment back. That would be super fun. And within my round of the mastermind that I'm in, I've made my money back technically, but I've not paid the loans back that I wanted to, because that's how it works sometimes in business. And I want you to know there are sometimes times in our businesses that we want to have something called a non-financial growth period. So for me, I realized that like, and I couldn't really see it at the time, but I decided like mentally, I was like, I feel like I want to cut back on my one-on-one clients. And then I randomly had like some other people like just kind of like roll. And I was like, oh, that was a surprise. It was like when you ask the universe for like something, it'll give you an answer. And then, so within my business, I was like constantly thinking about like, okay, I really need to like grow my one-on-one. I need to get back to like 18 clients. I need to make sure that like I have that. And then I would start to think about like, okay, what if like not everything happens for a reason? I don't necessarily believe that, but what if I can find a reason for everything? And I realized that like I could hit 200K this year if I took on a ton of one-on-one clients and raised my prices. Don't want to do that. I was like, I actually don't want to do that. I want to keep this mastermind at a very reasonable, like in my mind, I'm like, I feel like this is like a very inexpensive investment for what you get out of it, in my opinion. And so I'm like, I don't want to raise the prices on you guys. I don't want to raise the price on my one-on-one. I was like, all right. But I also know that I could reach a lot more people. So even if you're experiencing something that's not planned and you're experiencing an unexpected non-financial growth year, I was thinking about my business as a whole. And I realized that like I could not continue to grow my business if I continue to just have one-on-one clients in the way that I would like to. Like I would like to hit $1 million eventually in my business. I think it'd just be fucking awesome. Like what? So cool. So it's six, I mean, like everything is so great. So for me, I was like, I need to have systems in place to grow to 7 figures, which means I need to hire. I need to have the system in place for that. I need to have a funnel ready for my freebie. There's like a ton of things that I will eventually be teaching once I actually have it figured out about like how I'm changing my business plan to grow. So sometimes you're experiencing a non-financial growth year that's planned, and you notice that like the back end of your business is like, maybe that's why you guys came to this. You're like, okay, I can't take on more clients with the way that my business is structured. I'm going to set time aside to structure, and then I'm going to move forward. So that's a possibility as well. So I want you to make sure that like, and then if you're experiencing an unexpected non-financial growth year, use this for you. Being like, all right, like I thought I was going to have more clients, but I'm going to pour things into my systems and I know this is going to help me grow. So those are the ways that you can think about your goals. And it's fun to kind of like, we're like literally like last week, I think was our halfway point, which is crazy that we still have so much time together. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. So we want to continue to like reset these goals. And I actually like went to a networking thing, a virtual one last week, and it was all about like goals. And I was like, oh, such a good way to like reset in the middle of the year. So again, this is what your brain will always want to do. And so the old conserve energy, avoid pain, seek pleasure, lovely motivational triad. And so what you want to do is keep those 30 reasons why, and make sure you are giving yourself energy to keep you moving and getting out of that stagnation. And so Andrea did that, and I actually posted them in mine as well. If you want to scroll back, I can like, I don't know how I can move it within Google Classroom, but feel free to scroll back and see some examples. And then the other thing I want you to take some time to think about next week while we're not meeting is thinking about like this company that you're creating. Like we are CEOs, self-decided CEOs, but like we are CEOs nonetheless that are trying to change the world. And it's like, if we're thinking about this version of your future self and who you want to be and what you want to create, I want you to think about who you are before, during, and after this goal and so many other goals. Like we're in this for the long haul. I think the majority of us were ready to continue this business going, not just for like until it works or like for the next like month or two, but because we want to create something that lasts and a legacy for ourselves. So I want you to think about like, this is some coaching that I think I mentioned before, and I can add that to the thought work. But what would my future self be thinking? What would my future self be doing? And what advice would my future self give me today? Fun fact, I do this every day when I do my thought work. It's on my thought work, and I literally just like added that because I was like, it just always helps me get into an empowered cycle. So I'm like, what would future Megan do? By the way, she wears a pantsuit that is white and she sits right here. And I like just like talk to her during the day. I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, what did you do at this point? And she's like, oh, well, yeah, Flowdesk is the worst and it's going to delete all your things. And by the way, your website is totally going to crash also. And I'm like, great. I'm like, but she's like, but it's fine. She's like, it totally works out. You're a badass. Keep going. You can do it. And I'm like, okay, bitch. All right. Like, so it's like, you can just like have that like future version of you, like beside you. It's like literally like, even though it's very meta, like constantly talk to them, be like, what did you do? How did you get through this? And it's like, it sucks, right? But like, it gets better. So I think that when we're thinking about planning, a lot of people don't plan out these ambitious goals. So for me also, I did a whole thing. I'll send that to you guys for the annual plan last month or 2 weeks ago. Last week, it was just last week. How I plan things out monthly. It kind of has to do with our annual plan, but I kind of like revamped it and upped it a little bit. But what happened is I was like so fixated in my first year on hitting $8,333.33, which by the way, if you guys don't already know this, my crazy ass was like, what will it take? What's the exact amount it takes to get to six figures? Like, because I had to figure out, because there's no way I could get more than that or less and still hit six figures. Fun fact, it happened. So you want to make sure that you are planning and including that in your strategy and making sure that you're not just focused on like a certain number. You want to make sure that you're focused on like the growth of your business as a whole. And then you want to think about seeing your goals ahead of time. What did I write? Getting, when you plan your goals ahead of time, you can see exactly how they can be accomplished. Oh, so it's like you want to visualize it. That's what I was getting at here. I was like, that was worded weird. And then also getting creative and being like, okay, what would actually be necessary to come back? Okay, if I don't have any clients right now, I want to have like 5 clients in August. Okay, what would I need to be doing in July to make those 5 clients, 4 clients, 1 client happen? And then it'll help you like get out of there. And then there's also like a piece of strategic pessimism. So you want to be like, okay, if I want to get 4 clients and I've never gotten 4 clients in a month before, what did I do to replicate that 1 client? What are all the obstacles? What are all the problems I could foresee happening? And all the things that, fun fact, you'll never be able to foresee all these obstacles, like Instagram shutting down for a month. Didn't see that coming. Surprise. My website just being funky. Didn't see that coming. So these are just things that you can use your prefrontal cortex to plan ahead of time and then solve for them with those empowered and low value cycles. You can even put things that you don't even know exist yet. Like if you want to put social media shutting down, if that would freak you out, put it on the empowered and low value cycles. I'm actually really glad that we did these 2 today. And then go down your list and take time to think about how you're going to solve for it. And there's going to be mindset problems. Like that a go-to thought for yours is like, oh my God, this is so hard. Like if that's a thought for you, it'd be like, yep, I can and want to do hard things to grow. It's like, yep, this is going to happen. And then what I do is I add any of the positive mindset thoughts, I add to the top of my self-coaching. And I get those sometimes from these kind of calls, or I get them from just thoughts that I have during my self-coaching. And it's like, okay, I don't know how to track results in a group. And I was like, oh, that's a problem. I was like, I want to make sure that I'm tracking you guys with the same kind of spreadsheet as I did my one-on-one clients. So I made Google Form to track results. So that was so much. Yay, goals, all those things, just to show you what that looks like. These are, I think it's 13 and 12 in our Google Classroom. I don't know. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm adding the slides here so you guys can save them. It's underneath additional systems. I went through 12 here and 13 here. The slides are here. This is what the empowered to low value. And then this is what your goal setting looks like. Reasons why. strategies and obstacles. And then just so you guys know, like so you guys can see like the positive thoughts I have. I'm like, it's like, these are just thoughts that I got. It's like the universe never gives us more sales than we can handle. Like I was like, oh, that's good. It's like, okay, so if I'm not getting sales, I can't like the universe is protecting me. Great. Much better, way more empowering than like the universe is against me. Like, why? You know? Yeah. Oh, it's like if I was a product CEO and I was like running something like Apple or Google, I would have to rebound quickly. I would have employees to handle. I would have to do that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to make it personal. I'm just have to get to work. And I was like, okay, that was a helpful thought. So I hope these things are helpful for you guys. Any last couple things? I almost forgot. Chat GPT is a big deal. You can be totally anti-AI, and I support that. And I also, for those of you that would like to use artificial intelligence to build your business, it does seem to be a bit of a hot topic currently. And Christina is going to come on July 31st. They were on the same day. This is when Christina is going to come. It's when I get back from my mastermind, and that'll be super fun. The other thing is, and she actually already recorded a video for you guys. If you scroll down all the way past essentials, additional progress tracking, live coaching calls, bonus, I already have her bonus here. So these are the things. And she actually did a whole, and it's like it's a very short.
Hello, I'm going to show you guys how to.
Oh, sorry, I made it go fast, but it's like 4 minutes. And she talks about Chat GPT. So this could be another fun thing that if you guys want to do this while I'm out. And then she has like, I wanted to include this here. If you have questions for her, nobody's really been using this, but if you think of something, this is probably, I think, one that you will probably have questions about. So put that here. If you want to download, again, no pressure. This is not like an AI positive or negative group, but if you want to start with using AI, this is a way that you can create it. I have used it once in the time that Christina taught me to, and I'm really bad at using it. But it's like, I think this is it. Oh, I'm so bad at this. That's why I'm having her do it. That's why I was like, yeah, like, oh, I have one here and I have another one somewhere else. Again, clearly, this is why this is why I'm having someone else come and teach you about this. But I had a couple of questions. It's kind of cool. And then she also recommended doing something for plagiarism just to make sure. So if you want to do that, that's there. And then for next week, since I'm going to be out of town, so I've got her training here in the very last week of July. I was thinking, would you guys prefer like thumbs up, I guess, for Monday nights, thumbs down for like another time during the week? Would you prefer Monday nights, or some other time? Would Monday nights work? Okay.
So really quick, what for the normal accountability time? Are you talking about changing it or
No,
asking about a specific call? Sorry.
great question. For the July 4th, I realized it's a holiday, and so I was like, oh, I'm not going to be here. Or I was going to be here, but I figured most people wouldn't be here. And so I was like, let's just move this call instead of another time during this week. Let's move this to our 4th of July call, skip next week, and do another time in August. So that was my thoughts. And I was thinking, instead of doing the Tuesdays are obviously booked. Instead of doing another time during the week that you might not have planned out, and they might have clients, the accountability time is a time that like could be cool if like people wanted to block it out already. So if you're already going to be here, I'll just make this like this on August 7th, like a 2-hour call. And we'll just do a regular coaching call. But how does that feel? Does that work for everybody? Like, and if it doesn't work, yeah. Maria, what's up?
I think with notice it can work. It's a little bit of a harder time for me, but generally, but if it works for everyone else,
What would be
it seems like it makes sense.
that was my thought. It's a bit late. Okay. So within the other times, do we like is this a good time for everybody, like the 10 to 12 Eastern? Is that a solid time? Okay. So what if we do, are you guys cool with like either a double header on where we do, I mean, maybe we could do Mondays or Fridays? How do we feel about Mondays or Fridays? Does that work for? Okay. Okay. So I'll just put in the chat whether, because Mondays it would be like on the 7th and 8th. That might be like back to back. I'm thinking maybe we'll do a Friday call because I keep Fridays open. So maybe like does August 18th, 25th, September 1st, or 8th. So I'll put the Fridays in there because I feel like just doing 2 calls on a Monday would be just like a lot. Like I feel like that'd be like 4 hours at the beginning of your week. For me personally, I like to do both of those things. So I'll put those dates in. Is there any preference? Friday Bear, great, awesome, love that. Okay, cool. I'll just put like I'll have everybody vote by Friday, and then I'll move that call before I go. Excellent. Okay, so what coaching, starting with a win, do we have for today? I'm sorry that took like a very long time, but out of town next week, and I feel like everyone's gonna be out of town. Like from what I've heard, it's like everyone's like, not gonna be here, and I was like, oh shit. Like, well, we'll do it. Thank you in advance for your flexibility and patience. Sorry, I did not realize that. I was gonna take the call from the beach, and then I was like, be good for anybody, probably. So I'm feeling brave. Just want to share a win or some coaching. My mug says happy go lucky, y'all, and it's got a rainbow on the handle. It just makes me feel thrilled. That's a win for me. All right, Demetria, give me an update. How are things going? And it's just because you're first on my screen.
Things are going well. I feel good about just kind of where I am. My plans for the next few weeks. I do still have some traveling, and I was looking at my calendar this morning thinking that it seems like a lot. I think it's just all kind of right now, things have kind of played out that way. But also I will be taking my computer with me and I will be getting work done when I can. And I think it's with family, so I can let them know that if I have consultations, I just have consultations because that's what I'm doing. But I feel good. I have a webinar tomorrow night. And
what?
I think
I'll come. Oh, I might be with it. What time is it?
6 Central Time.
Is that 7 or 8 Eastern?
That's 7 for you.
Shoot.
Right. 6 Central, 7 Eastern.
I'll try and join. Join a little bit. That's awesome. Also, please let me know when you guys are doing things like this. I will join.
Okay. So I feel good about that. I think I have a couple of people signed up. I'm going to go into my group today and give them a reminder. It'll be live in my group and on Zoom for everything else. And it's also the webinar that I'm going to put up for people who purchase the planner, not like the little training video, but the extra like kind of bonus that they can go look at how I do my planning and scheduling on my digital calendar. So that's what it is. And it's Monday hour 1.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So I feel good about things. I just, I felt like with 2 weeks gone for about 4 days, I'm like, okay, I gotta get to work, but they were both planned trips, and um, I feel okay with it. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really, really glad that I called on you, because one of the things that I realized that I just don't want you, I want you to do as well. This is great because I just did this. One of the things that I got feedback on during my launch was that, and also feel free, I'm like naming a lot of people, but Charlotte Smith is the coach for farmers that I'm sure I've mentioned previously. She's hilarious and I like love her. And I was like, hey, after my webinar for the interest group, nobody came. And she was like, well, what were your sales emails after your webinar? And if you guys have hopefully watched the webinar one, I did not list any emails for afterward. For the next round, I'm going to be updating this to have a 5th and 6th emails. So emails one, oh my goodness, no. The email 1 is for anyone that's new signing up. 2 and 3 are for your list. 4 is during the webinar, and I never sent anything else after that. Fun fact, like literally until she told me that in like May. So now I'm adding to my protocol and my formula, and I will share these with you guys. It's just going to vary a lot. So this is like the email. You guys already have access to this one. However, I was told to think about 2 things that would be really, really important for my people to know and understand. And for me personally, I do a money back guarantee. And so I wanted to announce that. Still had a typo, can't win them all. But within, I wanted to like educate people about like business expenses are not personal expenses. You want to be taking out credit and loans at the beginning of your business, and it can actually benefit you within tax returns because the government wants to incentivize us building businesses to help the economy go. So that's something I want to like educate people with. Now, none of the people on this call are a business coach, but it's just something to keep in mind. Again, so you think about like 2 things that your audience would like really love to like hear, know, and understand. Demetria, I'm thinking for you, it would be like I send a planner to all of my people. So be like, you get a planner included. That could be something that like you could say instead of, I don't know if you do a money back guarantee, but you could be like, hey, when you sign up, all this is yours, full free, 90-day planner. And it's so pretty. I bought it. So if you guys ever start to sell products, like please send it to me. I will buy them and support you guys.
thank you for buying that, by the way.
Oh, yes, of course. And then the other thing would be like, I wanted people to see the back end of my business and be like, I will give you everything that I have. So I will share these with you guys. I will add them to our webinars. I don't talk about it currently within that module, but I'm refilming it as we speak. And so I'll add those 2 and I'll be like bonus 5 and 6, and I'll announce that as well today. But I want you to think about like, and then the other thing that I did for this is the first webinar I've ever done this other than in a launch. I actually included these posts I did in a launch that are essentially the same money back guarantee. This is this post essentially in, or that email in a post.
Okay.
And then I also did, nope, that's from yesterday. This one was like the money back guarantee. So I'm like, by the way, is there like a follow-up email that you want to send, or like a way that you want to like continue to like essentially sell your audience like right after the webinar? And if you don't, that's totally fine. We can implement it for the next webinar. But I just wanted to
No,
put
actually, I think a follow-up email would be good. And I still have time to do that because, it's not till tomorrow. So I think that email, like everything that you get when you work with me, would be a good idea.
yeah. And like, I think that'd be a good one. Everything you get when you work with me. And that's a great way to be like, hey, like you get all these things. Like if you're on the fence, consult call is free. And another one that you could do is like how to do a consult call, like what happens on a consult call. I did that as a part of my launch as well. This was a post and I included it in part of the as part of the webinar. So here, 5 things that happen on a consult, and I'll include this if you want to just like, you can literally just like take these things and be like, you'll do this. This is what you'll do. We'll decide. Like
Oh,
something.
that's really good.
Another idea for you guys is like, what do they get? And this is for everybody. So I can add these as well to the group. Another idea could be FAQ, frequently asked questions. That was a suggestion from, I think you guys saw that with the email list last week. If you didn't see that, I showed Demetria like the whole email list flow. So like, those are 3 ideas. Feel free to go with what do you think would be the most effective for your audience? Like, what do you think is like the last thing that they need to hear to buy from you?
Okay, I think those are both good. Probably, and yeah, I think those are both good things.
Yeah.
Because I've done a couple of times like this is what coaching is, just to kind of help people figure that out, because we forget that they don't know, right? They don't really quite understand it.
Huh? And then maybe you could include that in your FAQ and be like, what is coaching? It's like that could be a part of it. And then FAQ, what is coaching? Like that's a bit of like the educational piece of it. Maria asked, yeah. So this is the first time I've ever done this, and I don't typically like to teach you guys things that aren't like super tried and true. But because you're on this call, I'm like, yeah. So I've never done this before this webinar I did last week. And I actually posted these after the webinar as well. So I did Monday, yeah, okay. So I did Monday was the taking time off without taking a pay cut. And this was the post and this was the reel. And then I did 3 steps to plan your year. That was Tuesday. Wednesday, I went to include a testimonial. So in case people were like scrolling on my feed, they'd be like, oh shit, and she gets results. By the way, the consult I had yesterday, I don't know if you guys have seen, and I was telling Rob about this. I'll show you this in a second. But I think I've shown you guys this before where I just like take a picture of like a win and I literally like post like this. Have you guys seen that? I'll screenshot and send it to you guys and I did a whole training in my Facebook group. Literally, like I'll just take the wins that you guys have either done for your form, or I'll take wins for my one-on-one clients when they start their session with 5 wins, copy that, paste it into a text to myself, screenshot the text, and then post it. And like, I'm like, oh, great win for a client. Demetria, this is yours. I think, fun fact. Because I am having him go through. So you'll be seeing your wins on there. And I was like, so freaking proud of my entrepreneurs starting off the week strong. Literally, like these testimonials, she was like, that's the reason I signed up. She's like, I see that your clients are getting so many results. I couldn't not work with you anymore. And I've known her for 5-6 years. And she's like, I just knew. So fun fact, testimonials really, really, really do work. And then the last page of my testimonial, I do whatever I'm selling at the time. So I just talked about doing the coaching giveaway if you come to the workshop. And then that's actually, I think, the only picture. I posted Roma's reel, and then I posted this also on my story. And I'm testing this out. So you're literally getting my raw, like this is my best guesstimate. I think it could help people. And then I did this post on Thursday, and then I did this post on Friday. So that was my plan, and it actually did turn out in a consult, and it did actually sign a client. So that's my best guess. It did seem to work, and I'm going to do it again for the next one. So that was a good question, Maria. Yes, and I've just started. Is it something that I would say is tried and true? Not yet, but you can give it a try. Are there any questions about that? That's a really good question.
Had you did a webinar, or you did like the Facebook training and then you started posting those on your Instagram?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
And then that client was in your webinar, and then they saw, because they were like stalking you afterward. So having like emails, and then did you send those same things in email?
mhm.
Yeah. Okay. This is really helpful for me too, because I'm doing like a bunch of prep for a
Yeah.
webinar.
And like what Charlotte was telling me, so she's like a coach for farmers. She's just like this amazing human. And she was like, you build all this momentum for this webinar and then you do nothing with it. And I was like, that's a good point, Charlotte. I was like, yeah, that's a solid point. And so now the reason why I'm saying it's not replicatable for sure at all, like nothing right now is like, but like, because I was off social media for a month and I also didn't really do many emails at that time, that's what happened. But the thing I didn't like about this, like the reason why I tell you guys to keep posting like content even when you're not selling and things like that, and like just like giving value. I did another training in May that make your marketing formula training. I don't know if you guys remember, I did that 5-day training. And then essentially I sent like 2 more emails and then I went right into selling I sent like 4. So it's not too bad. But like, then I was like, and the Plan Your Year webinar is coming right up. And I like want to space it out a little bit more. So the Plan Your Year webinar, I will also include that for you guys. And it's worth a listen. Like, even if you're just like listening to, oh, I already took it off, didn't I? If I already brain, this is the Plan Your Year workshop. This is, but I included a consult link there. This is the presentation or recording. I talk about in this workshop how I'm now changing to plan my year. So I talk about this is how I plan my year. So I was like, okay, when am I traveling? I need to do my my business stuff on the opposite of it. So I planned out actually all my webinars for the rest of the year. There's only 2 more I'm gonna do. So because I don't want my audience to be feeling like I'm just selling to them all the time. I also have heard from the marketing coach that not the marketing, the media coach that I'm working with. I mentioned to you guys Master the Media. It's just kind of like another thing I'm adding to my repertoire. So that is something that I am going to, she said, to sell to your audience 10 to 15% of the time. I was like, oh, okay. I've been selling to them a considerable amount more than that. So, and I'll include these emails for you guys as well. And I'll put them on. So it's like, so this is my money back email, I think. And then this is.
I have another question, Isa.
Absolutely.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm just doing my like mindless stuff.
When you're saying like sell 15 to 20% or whatever that number was, is that like when you say sell in that context, do you mean like invite it? Maybe what's the difference between saying that word in that context compared to making offers?
Okay, so for me, it's like what I was talking with Talia, like having a set time of the month where she's like selling her group. Now, when you're selling something that's evergreen, because she is an opening.
Yeah.
So where I like to sell is like once a week. And if we're thinking about like, and it's not necessarily 10 to 15%, but if you're thinking about all the things, like if you're doing a reel and you've got all these slides that are giving value, and then maybe it's something about coaching at the end or any type of business that you have, that's what I consider the 10 to 15%.
Oh,
I don't feel like this I feel like is value.
That's really helpful, actually.
Yeah. And then
I would have like looked at that post and been like, that whole post is like a
is it selling
selling a specific offer, and if that's like,
too much?
then that if that's one post, then you can only do if that's 15 to 20. If it's 15 to 20%, then you only do one of those every like 7 posts or something. I don't know if that's the right math, but you get the idea.
And I don't consider like the testimonials. I consider this value as well. I only
Yeah,
consider-
is there a slide at the end that says sign up?
that well that one's for because I was doing the webinar, but like with Leslie's one-on-one, so what's up and now. That's what I would consider like. And by the way, you work with me. And also she's a dietitian, or she's a dietitian by trade. So I don't know if that there's a different one for our businesses. It's a different service-based business, but I think that mindset can just help you as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think it's like it makes more sense that like it also if you're selling a group to be selling that all the time
Would be a lot.
doesn't make a ton of sense. Like having a wait list open makes sense. That maybe you randomly like point to it, but
I don't even do that.
the launch model makes sense, and for that to be kind of like 15 to 20%. But this is helpful to see from you.
Yeah. And one of the
If you're doing one-on-one, it's kind of you're selling it all the time.
exactly. And the reason why this is important for you guys, if you're considering doing groups and things like that at a later time, within that annual plan, the reason why this is, and I talk about this in there, is especially like within the open and closed selling periods, I'm actually launching this group 4 times next year. So I'm going to have a launch in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter. And I needed to keep my brain straight because I was like, when is this starting? What is going? It's like essentially just to kind of like help me to be like, okay, this is when each group is going. So the red part, I don't know if we can make this any bigger. Oh, enter full screen. Yeah. So this was for group 1. And this is just like my selling period for like that next 6 months. And then pre-launch for the group. And then 5 days to like, this is for group 2. So the orange is group 2, yellow is group 3. So it was like, for me, I also needed to see that out in the calendar to be like, all right, so I need to nurture this group. Then I need to bring in one. I would love to bring in some one-on-one clients here. I want to do this pre-launch here. Like the strategy, like, and that's why I say like, and I actually talked about in this, I was like, I was so fixated on like the like 8-3-3-3. I would just like, instead of just like being really smart about it, and like the way that I've hopefully thrown out this program for you guys is that like, it's like, okay, each week you get a system, but it's not like I'm doing everything at once. Like, I'm not like, so here's all the modules, have at it and go for all these things. It's done in a very like systematic way. And one of the things that you need to do, like when you're, the reason why that's an important skill as you scale is because you're not going to, like right now, I would love to get maybe some ads going. I would think it'd be cool to see, like, I'm going to try that stuff out. I would love to hire some more people. I would love to do a bunch of different trainings, and I can't, I don't want to make time for that. So I have to be really smart about like when I'm doing what, especially because I don't want to be selling like, okay, I'm selling my group like all the time. Like for next year, it's going to be really important when I have those open and closed selling periods. And the pre-launch is going to be the same month as the launch. So I'm still going to have, I'm going to do 4 months of selling the group and 8 months of selling one-on-one, but it's going to be like only 1 month to launch the group and then a bigger space in between. That was a lot of talking. Did any of that make sense? I was like, it made sense in my head and I kept saying it and I was like, I hope this makes sense to everybody, because that it made sense in my head, but I'm like, I hope this works for all the other humans.
It makes sense. We have this calendar, yes.
Yes, this is
I do
from,
have it.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And I think I have it because I came to your
Yeah, and I'll send that to you guys anyways, like, so, yeah, this is week 10. So, and it was a play on week 10. I can add this too and be like, because I changed the annual plan webinar that I did. Well, I think I included this. Let me just double check.
I think so. I think I have it.
Yeah, it should be there for you guys. Yeah, this is the monthly breakdown. I used to talk more about the monthly breakdown in that presentation, so that could be helpful. I will add that. Any other questions about that? That was like a lot of strategy. Cool.
I have another question, not exactly about that, but it's just something that I've been thinking about in my head. And I think I'm making it too complicated because I sell a 6-month package and then I give away the planner and it's 90 days. But I'm just thinking, because I was like, well, maybe I should make it a 90-day package, but then I'd have to like resell. And I really do think if somebody's making a huge change, like not, I said 60 days.
Hmm.
6 months is my package.
Yeah.
Just give them 2 or give them 1 and they can buy 1 if they use it. But I think I was trying to make myself confused on thinking that because it's a 90-day planner, I should sell a 3-month package instead of 6 months.
Yeah.
But
Let me like, okay. I really love this. Oh my gosh. Like, so it's like, I'm just seeing if they would have room to do a second. They might have enough room. I like the C's for circumstances. They might need another one.
yeah, they definitely would need a different one because
Yeah.
it's strictly like 13 weeks.
Yeah.
But I just, again, I think I was creating confusion in my brain thinking, oh, it's 90 days but 90 days, but my package is 6 months, but just give them 2.
Yeah. Or
and
you
make
could,
it.
ooh, have a subscription to your planner. That would be really cool too. That's what Maria was saying. Have like you could have them purchase every 90 days, like they could have a subscription option. So maybe instead of like 20, it's like, okay, it's $19.99 if you want to subscribe every month, subscribe every 3 months.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that will take a little work because I can't do that right now. Like with
Yeah,
the
no, that's a good idea. I
thing,
like that a lot.
that would take a little work, but I mean, I could like do that down the line when I can figure out how to connect it to my website directly.
I love that.
But
Really?
that's a good idea. Okay. Yeah.
How are you feeling about another so one of my friends from 200K actually came to the workshop and she was like, why aren't you selling harder? She was like, you already, like, she's like, it sounds like a great program. And then you're like, yeah, like come to a consult if you want. Like, I'd love to have you maybe. And I was like, I feel like I do a pretty good job of selling. And I wanted to see if you want to like run through any pieces of your webinar with us. Like, Maria, if you've got questions, like, then we can pause. But like, if you want to, this space is time for that. Like, yeah, a deal in December. I love that. That's a great idea.
Oh, that's a good idea too.
Love that. I'm just like copying and pasting. Future ideas.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I just
Yeah.
need to get somebody to figure out how to connect. There's a more of a tech piece to connect. So they just do it all on my website and it goes through and then I can do things like that. Lulu won't let me do things like that. But I can figure that out. Those are all really good ideas.
Really, really great. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to run? Do you want to run anything through or with us, or are you feeling solid?
I feel good. I feel good. Thanks.
Of course, this is such a fun one. I am excited to see I'm excited to see what comes from this, and I'll put my email posts in there as well. Yeah, this sounds really good. Is there any other, I know that Maria, you were putting ideas in. Andrea, do you have any other things for Demetria? Are you feeling good? I don't want to like also
No, I thought that was a good idea for the subscription if you can work that out.
awesome. All right. So, and I'll put the I'll be like add other posts. I'll make sure, because I think that's like another important part. I just haven't had a chance to test it out enough, and I just wanted to teach you guys something that had been tried and true, but like go for it. Do what I'm doing right now. Just know that that's why I'm not formally teaching it just yet. So, Maria, do you have any questions for us today? Are you feeling any wins?
So I'm feeling really good actually.
How'd the
And
consult go? Did you have a consult yesterday or something?
I had the consult that I trying to remember. I think I had mentioned it in well, okay, the last consult I had went great. She's a yes. I mean, we're gonna start like halfway through July because of just like planning. And I guess like technically I don't have like the first payment. I asked her to like put the first payment down as a deposit, even though we're starting later, but I'm like feeling confident that she will pay it. I don't think that she's ghosting me, although there's always a chance. I guess I'm like open to that too. And that would be okay. But we've been like slowly moving through like what date, like when are we doing this, when is like a good time to start, where do you need support, and even that in itself is a win, because usually like I would be going through a bunch of drama of like, I haven't heard, like she probably doesn't actually, she's definitely gonna like I would be internally like freaking out and like thinking about it. Like I was just noticing the other day, and this is what I teach my clients, ironically, is how like when you're constantly worrying about the thing, your days get very long. The amount of emotional energy you spend makes you exert so much energy. So that's kind of cool. And then I had like it ended up being a consult. It was just like kind of an interesting experience because like a friend reached out and said, hey, my childhood like bestie is looking for an executive coach. I obviously thought of you. Can I connect you? Of course. We set up a call. I'm like, let's do 30 minutes. I think we're going to be like chit chatting. It turns out she's like, actually, I'm trying to like make this decision. I have a couple offers that I think are coming down the pipeline, like right now, like that some things are happening really fast and I want help making the decision. I sent her some info after, like it was a kind of a consult, but not like, so it wasn't like in my mind, it wasn't a consult, but then by the end of it, it was almost like I was selling her anyway. But that felt fine. And I was just transparent. I'm like, listen, usually, like I thought like, I want to be transparent with you. Usually like on this call, I thought we were just chit chatting, getting like the lay of the land. And then I was going to offer you like, here's my process. So just know that if there's like another call that I usually do where we walk through like these like 4 things that I believe like successful and fulfilled, women in the corporate world practice. And that's what I base my whole program off of. But that all just I felt really great. I like didn't get in my head about like, oh God, like, do I not say anything about what's in the consult? It was just like, let me just tell you about my work. And then she came back. Basically what happened, she's like, I feel I'm not ready to like commit to 6 months. I don't have a job right now. And I don't want to like commit to like the whole program, but I also don't want to like compromise your process. And what I offered her like a month of work. I was like, listen, I get that you are trying to make like this decision and make the right decision based off of making decisions that weren't like fully aligned before. And I was like, let's do 4 weeks for like $1,000, which is, you know, if you do the math, that's like how much a month costs anyway. And it just felt like super low drama and like not a big deal. And again, I usually would be like, if they don't want the whole thing, then they just don't want this bad enough. And I just like made it mean all these fucking things about my potential clients. And instead I was like, yeah, I totally get it. Let's do a month. And if you hate it and you like don't want to move on, whatever. And if like, and I think part of that too was I felt like she was interested in all the parts of what I have to offer, but needs help with something specific right now. And I feel like getting paid for a month of doing what I would normally do in the first month of my client is a great way to like, I don't offer people like test ever, but this situation felt fine and like right to do it. So that's kind of cool. And I just heard back from her that she's like, yeah, that feels a lot better. Let's go for it. Let's start next week. And then I've had I had a past client reach out and be like, hey, let's chat this week. I'm wanting to like work together again, or I'm like about to sign another client and I'm like to bring in it so I can like bring you back on because she started her own thing. So that feels good. I've been revamping. Like I decided to like offer a more formal like contract, and I've done it for past clients. But I feel like I'm just taking as I'm working through like the next thing, because I've had this little break of like no clients. What's kind of great is that I'm like running the new consult process and just like adding things on as I'm going. And so that feels really good and sustainable in a way that I'm not like, oh, I have to implement everything new immediately and like make it super, I don't know, like harder than it needs to be.
One of the things I want to offer for you is this is like the biggest mind fuck ever, because you felt safe. You felt safe with 0 clients. You're like, yeah, like I'm actually like, not only did I feel safe, I also felt grateful. I'm like, oh, this is like great. I'm feeling good. And this is why this is so, and again, you don't have to be in this like grateful, fine mindset for everything to work always. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. But what happens is if you feel safe and secure where you are right now, even in a low value cycle, that's where the empowered cycle is so like key. If you can feel safe, then they will feel safe to buy. And that's bringing in a lot of people and also when you're going back to the other thing that we talked about today, I'm so glad that we talked about both these things. When you are feeling safe, what happens is you're curious, you're open to something different. Now, you see what I mean? And that's
like I would never have offered the like 1 month thing. Like I didn't offer it immediately on the call. I was like, I was like, hey, how can I be the most helpful? Like, what would be the most supportive to you moving on from this call? Like, how can I help? And she's like, can you give me like a 1 sheet of like, I love how, I mean, it's so fun too, to hear the little things of like, I love how like organized and like specific or what, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the word she used. It was like, I love that there's a process, or that there's so many like, because I can feel that like I've had kind of that process, but I feel so many of like the worksheets that you've given to kind of the core pillars, and then I'm working on the webinar stuff. So I like the core pillars end up being like another version of the topic subtopic thing, and that has like helped my brain really organize like how I think about
Mhm.
the process and all these things. So like to hear that back. So anyway, she's like, could you just send me like something that I can look at and process? And I included like the full package information. And then I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna offer her this other thing. Like, why not?
Well, and so what I meant, what I wrote here is that like there is safety within the process. There's also that safety energetically. And if you guys all like I'll scroll this back. But I was like, what was the difference between like why did I sign all these people in the last week? I was like, what changed? And I realized that like when you feel unsafe, it's almost like BO. Like it's almost like your business is kind of like you're feeling like some unsafe BO and your brain is just like, oh my God, I'm like so um I'm panicking about this. Like I feel like it's gonna be so hard. And where is it? I was like, yeah, how I made 8 new clients in a week is I was able to have perspective and I was like, okay, worst case scenario, it's gonna be fine. This is how I created the safety in within myself. And I'll send this to you guys. I also went to my worst case scenario. I was like, worst case scenario, I've got time. I've got like even with like 0 clients, it would be like, okay, I've got time. I'm gonna spend time with my family. I'm gonna build this business. Then I was like, I'm really grateful for this. I was able to get that sufficiency as a whole down. And literally, I signed 8 people in a week. It was ridiculous. Demetri, you were one of them. But it was like that safety. If you can create that safety within yourself, and this is like the post I did about like how to create safety. And again, like you'll see a lot of my marketing has changed and things like that. But that was like literally like this is what happened is I figured out how to create that safety within myself. And I was like, this is like, yeah, this is like I was like the panicking that I was doing was giving it's like I had to figure out why I was panicking. And it was like, because the energy that I was giving, if you guys look back, like even though the posts were done, I was still panicking. And I like people weren't buying because they could like feel my panic. And it was like, ooh, Megan is like really needing some clients right now. She's freaking out. And I think that like people genuinely like felt it. But then the other thing is with the process, then it's like a lot less woo. And it's like, okay, no, but like I also have a process to help people. But I think this is really
I
awesome.
think yeah, totally. I'm also realizing too, or something that kind of hit me
Mhm.
was that I used to spend so much time on social media marketing. And more, I'm like, okay, this client that reached back out doesn't even follow me on social media. Like, I don't think she even is on Instagram. So, like, if I were getting really specific, the woman who I like offered the month thing to, she's a referral from a friend who sees my social media, but he isn't my like, he's not my target.
Mhm.
So he's like, maybe he's probably like scanning, like he might be like like reading a few things, but like, oh, I could probably like bet I'm getting a little value too, because he's like a smart, thoughtful guy. But more of what like the reason is because he's like, he just sees me like on Instagram. Like I'm just like top of mind. So that when someone comes, he's like, oh yeah, like I remember, like if I'm not posting at all, like it's exactly like the billboard marketing thing where he like passes my billboard enough, but it takes a lot for me, it takes a lot of pressure. Where if there's a week where I'm like, I'm a little tighter, like Nora gets sick or whatever, it's like, just fucking like write a 3-word caption.
Exactly.
Like
Oh,
keep it moving because even that, like I wrote, yeah, like there are some weeks where I feel like it takes, it'll take me like a couple of different days working on it for like an hour to 45 minutes or whatever to get the copy written. And like this week, I think I did the whole week in like 45 minutes and then spent another maybe 15 like making the canvas. Because once you have the templates, it's like a copy paste
Mhm.
thing, but like even that feels really, and it doesn't mean that I'm never gonna like write a really, really long, thoughtful Instagram caption. That's what I feel like I'm like tapping into right now is like, oh, I can offer her the 1K a month thing and help her work through this decision. But like that's not, I'm not marketing it as an offer. I'm not even thinking about like, oh fuck, now people want this. I need to change my whole approach. Nope, not doing that. Maybe
Yeah.
it'll be like, maybe it'll be relevant for someone in the future, but I'm not gonna offer it as a thing. It's like a custom random, not random, but it's like a custom offer.
Mhm.
And I don't even, I'm not gonna like, I can feel myself that I know I'm not gonna offer it, even if I feel like someone really wants to be a no, but
Mhm.
they're looking for like an out, and me using it as like a lifeline. Like I know that I'm not gonna do that either now that I've offered it once, if that makes sense. Because that would be coming from like scarcity, I think.
And I totally agree. And I'm trying to find, there was this like,
It's just taken me like a while to figure that out. Like
I
I kept trying to be like, abundance always looks like this, and like scarcity always feels like, or it looks like this. And so all I have to do is like take the actions associated with, like that's that. I can tell that since I like started coaching, I think a lot of people do that. They're like, well, let me just hack it, and if I know which actions I should do, then I'll just do the actions instead of just like letting yourself work, because that will be quicker. Like letting yourself work through like feeling some kind of way and seeing what happens, and then feeling in the other kind of way, and then finding like the middle ground.
well, and what I was trying to do is I was trying to find a picture of one of my clients sent it to me, and it was like there was just a bunch of horses, and it was like, okay, your business is to like get the horses through. And it's like there's so many things that you do for your marketing. So it's like the talking to people, the presenting, the posting, all these things are components, and they come into your system. Then you sell them, and then some of them will stay, some of them will go, and then it was like this really beautiful cycle. And it's like then they go through your program, they get what they came for, and then they leave, and they are either like a better horse or they continue the cycle. And it's like no, it just felt a lot better. And that's one of the reasons why I think having the system is huge, because then it's just like keep it moving. Like I'm just gonna post something, it's gonna be relevant, it's gonna be useful, but it's not about social media only at all. Like it is
Or like one single post,
one
or
post will not make or break you, or like one single reel or anything like that. Even if you go viral, if you don't go viral, all the things are relevant. So
yeah. And
that
it's finding this balance of like, and I feel like I've been saying this for the past like few weeks. Yeah, like it's not about like putting something you're not, it's like garbage or just like something you don't care about at all on social media.
right.
But it's just also like tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, or like it's nothing. If you just are having a week where it just doesn't feel like words are flowing, then just put fucking less words.
Yep.
Just like, yeah, like it, like I decided, oh, I really like this caption I wrote. I'm just gonna put that in a Canva.
Yep.
Usually I like write a whole new thing. Nope, just gonna like do this other, because I'm like, I'm offering shit to clients and I'm working on my webinar this week and blah blah blah. Like I just didn't want to spend
All the time on it.
as much
You don't
time,
need
and it felt
to.
really good.
And another thing is that like within, like you can reuse posts and things like that, but that's what one of the reasons why I really like having the pillars. And what I realize is when I'm sitting down at my computer, that is when I'm like the least creative. I found that like I get a lot of thoughts in the shower. Driving is like the biggest thing for me. Like whenever I'm driving somewhere, I get just all of these thoughts. When I'm cooking, I'll have thoughts. And when I'm on a walk, I'll get thoughts about like my business and things like that. And one of the things that I wanted to mention about like work-life balance and creating that for yourself is when you are giving yourself like all this very intense pressure, like I have to make this work, I'm in a fight or flight, you also not only do you shut off your rational ability, but you also shut off your ability to think creatively. So it's like if you, and that's why when doing a lot of like the automatic things, my brain just assumes it's going to be safe, even when I'm driving, which might not always be safe. Not like just like I'm assuming I'm not going to get in a car accident. Like my brain is like, yeah, we've driven enough times that we feel safe doing this. That's one of the reasons why it's so important. So I want you to start to figure out like, what I mentioned about like the reticular activating system is when you have pillars, it gives that creative piece of your brain focus. And
Yes.
in that focus to be like, okay, I only now, like, I'm not going to talk about creating a 10-year plan anymore. I don't really talk about that anymore. That's not part of something that I teach within I teach you guys a long-term plan, but I used to talk about the 10-year plan all the time. And so my brain has now focused and shifted to like, how can I talk about managing? And when I go on those walks and things like that, or driving or things like that, I was like, why does that work? It's like my brain's always like, okay, why is this working? I want to make sure it's a system because that's how my anal weird logical brain works. But it's like, I'm like, okay, how can I replicate this? Because I want to make this into something that serves me. And it's because of this piece of your brain called the reticular activating system. It's also the piece that a lot of people say is responsible for manifestation, because like, and manifestation, it's like where you like picture something and it comes to be, but it's like you're giving your brain focus. You're like, okay, if I really want to be a digital nomad, if this is like a new goal of mine that I'm playing around with, it's like, okay, everywhere I'm going, I'm starting to see stuff about digital nomads. And guess what? I'm looking up stuff about digital nomads. And I'm going to a webinar about being a digital nomad. And I'm doing all these things because my subconscious within that reticular activating system is activated, which also has a lot of creativity within there. And that's what can help you to create, like, bring out a lot of your genius too, which is like really cool. Sorry, that was like a very like ranty like thought, but I'm like, yes, like this is why it works. And then when you're putting all this pressure on social media, fun fact, that is here. So you can't think creatively. So you can take the pressure off and be like, all right, I'm just going to do this. This is my creative contribution that I want to give the world. Let me get regulated, let me go on a walk, let me do something else, switch up my state, doing the freaking bilateral stimulation. I've got my little candle here, which is my favorite thing. And just like, okay, feeling triggered, feeling weird, let me just like pass this from hand to hand. Okay, what am I supposed to be doing now? Oh, I'm just gonna do this, take the pressure off. So I think that can be really, really helpful, and I'm really glad you found this so damn good. Are there any other thoughts about this, Andrea or Demetria? Have you had any light bulb moments or like any other ideas for Maria? I'm just assuming that you're interested. Maria, is that okay?
No, I just think it's fantastic that because you were in that moment, you were connected with that client and you did what was right for both of you. And it worked out. I mean, because we do get to decide like what's right in our business. I'm working on kind of less rules, and this is my business and I can do so. I think that's fantastic. Oh yeah, like what Joel said, like what works best for both people. So,
yeah,
congratulations.
and like also like mentioning the fact that like, so for me, I was like, this is what Jewel said last night. If you guys didn't see it, I thought it was really valuable, but like she was like, how you actually bring value. Another way that you can bring value, it doesn't have to be in a worksheet, it doesn't have to be in a template. It's making someone feel seen, heard, and understood. And I think that's what a lot of our cold posts do, is that's a great way to build know, like, and trust. I hope you guys couldn't hear the kitten. He was like, "Wow," and I'm like, you're good. The other thing that I wanted to add is one of the things that happens is our brains think really black and white. I again really hope you're not hearing Frankie. But within our brains, we like to put things in categories, and we like to assign good, wrong, bad, right, black and white. And that's how human brains work. So what happens a lot of times is something I always want to applaud you for, is that a lot of times people would be like, oh, I got all of these clients and it wasn't directly from social media. So screw social media. It's not something that's necessary anymore. And your brain can categorize social media as into the not working, not necessary category. What I want you to do, and what you did is you were like, this person saw me on the billboard. And so your brain made a connection like, oh, I don't need to just stop doing what I was doing and do something completely different. I'm going to take this and pivot, and I'm going to bring this forward. And I think that's something that is not many people do. Like a lot of people just like, again, myself, it was so interesting. I was like, well, all right, well, if I can't use social media, then I'll just do all of the DM networking. That's what I did for the entire month of May into June 14th when I started posting again. And it was still working, but I didn't actually get consults in from that, And so it's like my brain could be like, screw this networking stuff. I'm going to focus on social media. And my brain was also like, maybe social media isn't that important. Let's just take it out. And it was really cool for me to actually experience that, like keeping the business, like adding and subtracting in very minuscule and small portions is really, really important. And so it's like that I just want to applaud you for. And the other thing that I wanted to applaud you for was that you were like, yeah, and I'm not going to, again, along the lines of the black and white, it's like, I'm not just going to start selling a 1 month package right now because it was great for one person. I'm just going to switch my whole business. It's like, no, we're going to stay the course. And then also when you're in your ventral vagal, which is that safe part of you, again, being open to alternatives, but also like settled and grounded. And this is what I'm supposed to do. That's how you can tell you were in that state. And actually, like the client I signed 2 weeks ago, she's in a different situation. And I made a call about her to do career coaching. Am I going to start selling career coaching again? No. But I was like, she was a friend from Greece. I was like, you know what? I used to do this. I know I can help you. I don't know where this is going to go. But again, being in that service mindset, I put it here. Yeah. Focusing on service versus focusing on yourself. Would it be great if I was like, hey, and I think you should do a business for sure. But it was like really cool for me to be like, I could serve her. I think this will be helpful. And I'm really proud of you for getting into that as well. Lots of rantiness, but good. Awesome. We have 10 minutes ish left. Andrea, do you have anything that you want to share? I messaged you an idea I had for you on social media because it just like came to me. I think I was driving or cooking as it came to me. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I was doing laundry. And I was like, I have to talk to Andrea about this because I was listening to a podcast as I was doing laundry. And I wanted to see like how it was, like, how are you feeling about that idea? Is there anything you want to add? Do you want to like maybe talk about it later? Up for any of the things?
I know I looked at it, but I don't recall really what it was at this moment. Yeah, I'm not much is different with me, so
Well, and that's totally fine. I will say that sometimes when I was feeling like in a bit of a funk in my business, I never raised my hand for coaching. And I was like, nope. And I literally just posted like 2 weeks ago in 200K, and I'm like, I'm paying $25,000 to have nobody see that like I have a question about lots of things. And I just wanted to offer to you that it was very helpful to like get a lot of feedback, and it actually got me into a high value cycle again. Like literally like 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh shit. Like people were like, also, are you like going to networking events? And I was like, shit, I'm not. I was like, okay, Christina Langdon. I was like, I see you. And I literally like signed up for stuff until August. Like I signed up for like, I'm going to like a Chamber of Commerce event anytime that I'm in town. I'm doing this with like Raleigh Women in Marketing. I'm going to tonight or tomorrow night, I'm going to another Chamber of Commerce thing. Last week I went to one with like, it was what is it? Another event. But within that, like it was really helpful. So if you ever need anything, we got you. You did such an amazing job about posting like all of your thought work. And I know that it can feel funky, and I just applaud you for it. And if you ever need anything, let me know. And Frank, stay out of the tulips. I was like, I can't. Okay, well, awesome. So what, we might finish up a couple minutes early. I will add those dates for you guys and make sure that that is available. I will add my emails and posts to the end of the webinar one. And I'm going to add the monthly breakdown to the annual plan. And just a quick update, it'll probably be in August. So just a heads up, it'll be August, I think 18th and 25th are like my two, and maybe the 1st. Those are like, so it'll be like later on, but I'm gonna miss you guys so I'm gone for a whole week. Then next week I come back, and then I do on the 11th, I believe it is, I'll be back. And then I have Jackie covering for the 18th. So she's going to be my business coach who I had worked with for years. And I'm excited for you guys to meet her. And she's a very different style of coaching. So I'm excited for you guys to see that. And then Jewel, who you guys met informally, or you'll meet watching her formally met her, or if you informally rewatch the replay, then she's going to be covering on the 25th. And then I'll be back for good. But if you guys have any questions about anything, if you want me to read over a post, if you want me to repost your post, please send it to me. I will. Like, I love your shit. I'm like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like every time anything that pops up on the few times that I am scrolling, I'm like, oh, you guys are just geniuses and killing it. And I'm just like, wow, I'm so honored to be your coach. Jewel messaged me last night as well. And she was like, you have like the coolest people. I'm like, I know, I do. Big facts. So thank you guys so much. I will see you in 2 weeks, and then that's it. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great one. Bye.